Hello beautiful souls, welcome back to another video on Starseed Academy. My name is Jenny. So today we're going to be talking about the Greys, so the extraterrestrial beings known as the Greys. I've had a couple of interactions with them coming through with some readings that I've been doing, and there was a lot of interesting information, to say the least, about what kinds of things that they work on and their personalities too. And I feel like I've met enough of them now to have a good idea and a good scope to do a video for you. And I know that it's actually, it's a very interesting topic. A lot of people are very interested in the Greys. But anyway, before we dive into this video, I just want to remind you to please like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel for new videos every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. And if you want to work with me to receive a reading like this of your own, where you're uncovering past parallel lives, as well as meeting your team and seeing what kinds of guides you have, then check out the links in the description box below to work with me. So the first thing that I want to say about the Greys is that they are the most painted species of aliens or extraterrestrials. And what I mean by that is that they're painted in a really negative light. Most movies or references that are made towards aliens are referring to the Greys, and that's like the kind of image that they'll use. And so, there's a lot of fear that's been created and built up around this species. They're known as the experimenters, the abductors. I've also heard that they have a hive mind, that they have evil intentions, just painted in a very negative light, across all kinds of outlets, media, movies, articles, all of those kinds of things. So the thing about the Greys is that they are extremely, extremely intelligent, like very logical, and they are not highly emotional. So we tend to view them as being cold or uncaring. They just have an extra high dose of logic, intelligence, and when it comes to emotion, they're very neutral. So they do have emotions, but because of their very neutral energy, they're able to just be the observer of those emotions as opposed to a slave to them. So they can still feel things, and then they are kind of on the outside of it, observing the emotion as probably with curiosity or interest in it, and less of the experiencer of it. They're very interested in science and technology, evolution, very interested in all of that because of the way that their inquisitive minds work and how much they are able to comprehend, which is it's beyond what a human can comprehend, even the smartest human. And so there are a lot of programs that they are a part of. So many of these programs are actually created by higher dimensional beings like Arcturians, Andromedans, even sometimes Pleiadians, or something like that. Yet parts of the program are carried out by the Greys. So why would that be? So the reason for that is that the Greys can actually go into places that these higher dimensional beings can't go. So because the Greys have such a very neutral vibration, they are able to go into lower dimensional places and higher dimensional places because they have just very neutral, strong neutrality in their frequency. So an Andromedan being or an Arcturian being cannot physically incarnate on Earth. They can't. It's way too different from their own vibration. They can't physically incarnate. They can astrally or spiritually come to Earth, but they actually can't come physically. Just like you can't go to their, homeland, stars, home stars, dimensions, whatever, because of your physical vibration. So not in this physical body you can't. However, you could go astrally. Okay, so the Greys physically can actually permeate the Earth energy. So it makes them perfect candidates, as well as their intelligence, their neutrality, able to permeate the Earth atmosphere and energy. Then on top of that, they have these incredible technology in their ships, instruments, for measuring, testing, experimenting. They can create it. They are, or they already have it. Like, they're the perfect add-on to some of these programs to actually like follow through, carry out the work that needs to be done. So where these high vibe beings can come up with ideas, things, programs that need, and we'll talk about what kinds of programs, if that's confusing you, in a second. We'll talk about the different kinds of experiments and programs and why they're needed. But like a higher dimensional being can kind of create the concept of it, but they need someone to actually go do the work. Now, this doesn't mean that grays are like low vibrational or negative entities. It's truly about the neutrality. Now, that being said, I will remind you that every species or group of beings has all of the different scopes of, great intentions, medium, to evil intentions, bad intentions for people. It's not about the specific gray beings, it's about the souls within the beings. Just like in humanity, you have saints and you have murderers, right? You're going to have everything within humanity. Same rule applies to Pleiadians, Greys, Arcturians, all of it, because it's about the soul within, not the outer shell. And we know this, right? And sometimes we get tripped up, but we do know this, that it's always about the person within, the soul within, how much work they've done, what they're going through, all of that. If you want to think about it like this, the Greys kind of have a pliable energy or a pliable frequency, because when you're set at neutral, you can kind of flow a little bit, like more so one way or the other. They would be able to go into low vibrational places and high vibrational places. Their vibration is flexible, it's pliable because it's neutral. So oftentimes the Greys are actually working alongside councils of light, higher vibrational beings, like we mentioned, like the Arcturians, Andromedans, that kind of idea, sometimes Pleiadians, and sometimes even the Galactic Federation of Light. They're working alongside these councils of light with these great intentions, and they are carrying out the part of the program that those higher dimensional beings physically can't do, right? So this would be why the Greys are painted as being like abductors, because if they're always the ones collecting the specimens for testing, checking up on people or whatever, then it's going to seem like they're just doing it all the time for no reason. Meanwhile, it's a part of a bigger program and we're only seeing this one part of it, if that makes sense. But yes, they are definitely painted as like super scary beings that just come down and abduct like people and children. And of course, that's going to be super frightening. If you are lucid during that experience, or if you remember it later as a nightmare, that's going to be scary. How could it not be? That's terrifying. You're being taken onto a spaceship by these beings that are, like I said, they're super neutral, so they're not going to be comforting you either. They're just, there to do what they need to do, cause no harm, and then replace you back in bed or wherever you came from. But can you imagine if someone was awake during that experience? Like if they try to wipe their minds or whatever they try to do, if it didn't take or didn't work, or if they have the memories return, like repressed memories often pop back up, or if you're a child, can you imagine how super frightening that would be for a child? So of course, they're going to look like the bad guys. So what I wanted to say about that is that free will reigns supreme in this universe. So if you've had an abduction, then you likely agreed to it at some point. And that might have been a long time ago, in a soul contract somewhere, where you agreed to be a part of a program, and maybe you don't remember. I mean, you're not going to remember as the human everything that's in your soul contract. But I know that free will reigns in this universe, and that they're not just going around abducting random people. It's already premeditated and pre-decided upon. It's just that you don't remember. So if you've had this experience and it really upset you, I hope that that can maybe give you some solace, that it wasn't for no reason and you weren't targeted as some kind of victim, that it was likely something that you agreed upon way in advance and maybe you just don't remember. So let's talk about what you maybe agreed upon, some of these programs and what they look like. So the most popular one, and that you may have already heard about, is called the Human Hybridization Program. So this is where you would agree to be abducted, which is kind of a harsh word, but I mean, we're going to have to use that because what else are we going to say? Like, agreed to be taken upon the ship, anyway, at a fairly young age in this case. So this would be mostly girls that this would happen to, and they would be early teens likely. So they would be taken upon one of these ships to have some of their DNA or even eggs harvested if they agreed to be a part of this human hybridization program. They would then have that part of themselves, like later, they would be returned to their bed or wherever they came from. And then what was harvested from them, whether that have been just DNA or eggs or whatever, however they do it, it's going to be mixed together with the DNA of an extraterrestrial, possibly even a gray, to create hybrid babies. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but this has been reported upon, this program, for decades by so many people that don't even know each other, that are either channeling this information or have seen it themselves, like whistleblowers, or who are literally the humans that are a part of the program, right? These babies are then taken care of lovingly. They are raised on ships or in a designated area where they are taught as they're growing up about humans. They're taught about the challenges that humanity faces and the suffering that humanity faces. And they're taught about both sides of what they are, the human side and the alien side. And this hybridization is to find solutions for both, or specifically humanity in that case. So they are being prepared to either integrate at some point into human society or to start a society of their own if the integration isn't possible. However, the first choice would be for them to integrate. Now, whether or not that's going to be possible in the future remains to be seen. Would humans be able to accept a hybrid child? They would look different. They would still look quite human, but they would look different, like you would know for sure. I've seen them be described in some images of them just having like very large eyes, larger than normal, being extremely intelligent and smart, and a few other physical features that would stand out, and it might differ from child to child, but you would see the alien in them. You would. But if they were able to be accepted by other humans, and then they could come here and be safe, because they're not going to send them if they're not going to be safe. They are precious, like honestly. They are the future in a lot of ways. If it was safe to send them here, then they would watch over them very carefully and help them integrate into society. And what that would give to humanity, wow, it would be so intense, the amount of solutions that they would find for us. Because of their, especially if they were part gray, the extreme intelligence, the problem solving, the neutrality would help them as well. That extra dose of neutrality would help them to stay very self-aware and stay as the observer and keep them on task. And they would be able to solve things for us like, ocean pollution, free energy, total medical health, like health care for every part, disease, everything. It's so much more than what we have here on Earth, or than what is being shown to us that we have. These kinds of technologies and understandings and evolutionary qualities that these beings would bring us into a golden era, for sure. And, sometimes I wonder with the precession cycle if that's what happens near the end. With Atlantis, I saw a lot of hybrid beings. And in Lemuria, I know that there was a lot of aliens visiting at that time. In ancient Egypt, there were a lot of alien beings on Earth. Sometimes I wonder if that's what it takes to get us into that next level, that golden era level where we are thriving as a society and healthy and at one with our planet and all of that. So this very well could be the future of humanity. It's already being created. These children already exist and are still being created. It's about getting humanity to a place where they could accept them as citizens here on Earth. So one other program, it's very related to the hybridization program, but it's different. And this is where a soul would agree before they become a human. A soul would agree to take on extra DNA with the human DNA in a lower dose than the hybrid children. So not half and half, but I don't know the percentage, 10, 20% or something of gray DNA or some kind of other alien DNA. They would agree to that in a soul contract to take that on physically in a very real way. So this would happen to that soul while they were still in their mother's stomach. I don't know at what point during the pregnancy, but it would happen with the mother during the pregnancy. So they would either visit the mother when she was sleeping or take her on board of one of the ships and insert into her growing baby this extra DNA of likely gray or something like it. Now, what that would do is show and provide a lot of testing, and it would also provide evidence as to how the DNA would fare while here on Earth. So if someone agreed to take on some gray DNA with the human part of themselves, they would then be checked in with at regular intervals. So they might be one of those children who keeps getting abducted every couple of years or every year, and then, or even as an adult, right? And tests would be performed to see how that DNA is reacting to the energetic environment, and then emotionally too, how they are reacting to the social environment of Earth and humanity. There would be so many ways that you would be able to test the grounds to then apply that to the hybridization program and see how those children would fare here. On a smaller scale, but it's still related. It's still about helping get those children here on Earth to be integrated. A person that agreed to be kind of a human test like that would be someone who had an invested interest in that program. Perhaps they are a parent of one of the hybrid babies, right? Maybe not the human parent originally, but maybe the other parent of a hybrid child, or perhaps they had previous incarnations as the other half of the children in the program. Maybe they had a lifetime as a gray or an Andromedan or whatever. Most of the hybridization programs though are with grays, and again, because we talked about how the gray energy DNA frequency does better on Earth because of the neutral aspect, so a lot of it is grays mixed with humans. So in that case, you would, as the human carrying that little extra bit of DNA, you would notice it. You wouldn't look different necessarily. Maybe a few little features if someone told you and you knew what to look for. But it would be more so about your personality, your energy, your frequency. You'd probably be fairly cool-headed, neutral, very interested in how things work, very science-oriented, or mechanically oriented, or tech oriented, or even in healthcare. It could go a few ways, but you would be very interested in finding solutions and finding out how things work, figuring out why things are the way they are. You might be you might struggle with social interactions, connecting with people. You might feel kind of lost or lonely. There are a lot of ways that it could come through, but there are people like that on the earth right now. I've at least met 2 now of these hybrid humans that it's physical. I'm not saying hybrid human as in the soul. Yes, we're all starseeds. Yes, we've all had past lives here and there and everywhere. I'm saying like the DNA. If someone checked their DNA, it would be different than a regular human. So I still think it's rare, even though I've met 2 people now. That's not a lot compared to how many people I've worked with. But it's happening. And they were different hybrids. They weren't the same kind. So it's happening with more than one species. Very interesting. See how interested aliens are in Earth and in humanity? And it's not negative. A lot of it has this pure intention surrounding it, pure energy. I don't feel anything nefarious about that. Not with the hybrid children either. There doesn't need to be fear about change. Evolution is change, and it's natural. And I mean, we already have a lot of alien DNA in us to create us in the first place. So this is just like creating like the next level of that and the next society or civilization of that. So I'll be very interested to hear what you guys think about this. Have I eased your mind at all about the Greys and their programs and why abductions happen? Have you been abducted? If you feel comfortable, would you share that below? I've had a couple of experiences myself. I've shared them here though. One was an astral abduction that I shared in the video called My Astral Abduction. And then one was another one that I shared in the video Ship Contact, where I was abducted and taken aboard quite a few years ago now. And I don't know, it was definitely some kind of test or something that happened, but it wasn't like physical necessarily. You'll have to watch that video. I don't want to get into it all, but yes. So anyway, in the comments below, let me know your experiences with abduction or with Greys, what this information, has it unlocked anything for you? Has it eased your mind in any way? Do you believe that you're a part of the hybridization program? It is such a cool program. Are you a parent of one? Or have you seen a hybrid child? They're very gentle and sweet, and they are emotional. They do have emotions. They're half human. So they have all kinds of emotions. They are just very, very wise and intelligent beings too. So very cool. So anyway, let me know what you think about all of this, and I really look forward to reading it. Please remember to like this video, to share, and to subscribe. And again, if you want to work with me, check out the links in the description box. And before we go, of course, please remember, listen to your heart and the quiet voice within, because you are so much more than the body you are in. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Bye.